Good morning. This is Iron Sharpens Iron. One man sharpens another. That's from the Old Testament. Book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 17. Iron sharpens iron, we say, so no man walks alone. For those of you that are new with us, our mission statement is to provide men with tools so they can be better at home, working in the community. And if we do that, you'll be better husbands and fathers, and sons and brothers and friends. That's what we do. We employ what we call the 3 M's. The 3 M's, it's very simple. Our target audience is men. Men are everywhere we go. From the airport to the grocery store, sitting next to you in church, men still walk alone often. The second M is the method, which is simply getting men to tell you their story. I never met a man who didn't want to tell you about his victories, but over time, even more important, he wants to tell you about his failures. He wants to tell you about his disappointments. He wants to tell you about his heartaches. He just never had the opportunity. And that's the key. And the third point is invite men to meetings. This meeting where we can all sharpen them together. So that's what we do. It's not on you to sharpen them on your own, because we can do that together. So we use the 3 M's. So this morning, especially for the guys that are new, I want to tell you a little bit about what the meeting looks like. First 10 minutes like this, we're going to just do some announcements. We're going to review basically what our speaker did last week. Then I'll introduce our guest speakers that came from Colorado and Texas today. And then we'll have a little refreshment time for the cookies and by the way, all the gentlemen that brought cookies today, we appreciate that, home-baked stuff, and coffee. And then we'll break into our small groups. And the small groups are probably the most valuable thing. That's where you really start to develop the bond and the trust with other men. So we're all glad you're here this morning. Let me say a brief prayer to open, okay? Dear Lord, we're grateful for this time, and we thank you for all the men that came from great distances, as well as the men that came from across the street to be here. We love your word, Lord. Iron truly sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. Let this be a great day. Let us not just be hearers of the word, but doers. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay. Last week, we discussed having trusted male friendships. And you all had a discussion document. Today you have a discussion document, which has what our speaker is going to be talking about. The reason we print these out for you is so, is anybody short of those? Are you short one? Do you have one?
Fine.
Okay. You causing problems again? No, okay.
No, except that this is obsolete yet.
Okay. So what we do with the discussion document is we would like you to obviously take notes and then take those home so that you can discuss them with your wife or your girlfriend or someone else, so that you can open lines of communication. We want them to know what you're doing to improve yourself. If they're wondering where you're going on Saturday morning at 7 o'clock. So this is a valuable tool to use. Let's talk about last week, trusted male friendships. Basically what Dave, our speaker, talked about is, most people think trust is something that you earn. But what Dave said is trust is something that you should give freely, give in order to get, which is contrary to what a lot of us have thought or have lived. And he also asked, what about our lifelong relationships made them work and keep working? And he asked you to think about that. So I'd like some general comments, briefly, before we delve into our program today, about trusted male friendships and what you thought about since then. Somebody. You're all winners, so who's going to go first? Yes?
Yeah, I guess the last week what it did, it inspired me. There was a really good friend, best man at my wedding, he is just blown apart. So actually I kind of researched trying to get back in touch with him and actually connected with him. So that was, he was an important man, and it's just, again, our seasons change, we separate, but the message just helped me reach out and actually make that connection again, and he appreciated it. We talked about his work, it's a relationship, and so I just want to make sure, I take the steps to try to do that, and I actually did this week.
Great. How about somebody else? Somebody with giving trust as opposed to getting trust. Giving trust first. Somebody comment on that today. Yes, Scott.
My mentor is 89 years old, and I'm about to lose him in coming years. And I have another mentor that's 75, and he's going to die before I am too, most likely. And this last week I called a younger man and asked him to hold me accountable for something, because we should not let age be a barrier.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to be held accountable.
Very good. So you have the trust in order to be held accountable. That's something we hope to develop. As these tables you see, these small groups will develop. They'll naturally graduate as a small group. We're going to begin to trust each other. And what we hope to have is a team captain at each table, which will keep those guys in touch with each other. So they'll have somebody to contact during the week if they need to. No man will walk alone. That's the whole point. How about one more comment about last week? Trusted male friendship. Somebody else. Mike.
Well, I reached out to two guys that I hadn't talked to for way too long and told them that I was being commanded to do this. And we all made a commitment. In fact, we got on a three-way conversation, two of my high school buddies. We got on a three-way conference call. We all committed to stay together once a month. And I don't think that would have happened had I not just done it, you know. And so I would challenge you to just do it, you know. It was great. We had a great time. We laughed, had a great conversation for like half hour.
Thanks, Mike. So after we refresh and have our small groups today, we'll be having our group prayer. And that's a time that if anything's on your heart, you'll be able to speak up if you'd like briefly, say what that prayer is, because there's power when men pray together. And the last few weeks, you guys have really responded in that regard. Also, if you're new with this, you'll notice on the table there's an info card. You can fill that out so you can be on our mailing list. Mike sends out the mailer every Wednesday. It tells you what's coming up, what we're going to speak about. And that's a great way to also forward that to a friend that you might want to invest in or somebody in need. So you can take that little sheet and put it in the orange box above the microwave here, okay? So we have some guests here today. And they, like I said, came from long distances. One gentleman, it's interesting, I just met him this morning. His name's Ward. Ward, give a little wave to everybody. Say hi to Ward, everybody. Ward came down. Actually, he was in our group that I used to be with in Colorado. And he's on his way to Tucson for the winter. And he asked where was a group close by, and they referred him here. He drove all the way over from Scottsdale just to be here with you guys this morning. So we're happy to have you here.
Hey, welcome.
The gentleman here, who's the next three gentlemen that I've introduced to you, they're all mentors for me. They're all friends. And more important, they're brothers in Christ, which is really makes all the difference. First gentleman is the president and founder of Masters Men Ministries. It's a worldwide ministry. It's reached as far as Norway. It's huge in India and Russia. And he was the chaplain for First Interstate Batteries for 10 years, and he got involved in NASCAR. That's why he's down here this weekend, to be down in the pits of NASCAR and stuff. But he just wanted to be one of the guys today. He didn't want to come speak today, and I appreciate that, even though maybe we'll get him back in the future. He's a wonderful speaker. His favorite scripture verse is Matthew 6:33, which I love, which is, "First seek the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and everything will be given unto you." So give a wave to Jim Cody. Jim, wave your hand there for everybody. If you want to talk about NASCAR, he's the guy to hit afterwards. Okay?
We'll leave early.
Next gentleman has been a friend for many, many years, and he knew Jim. And about 8 years ago, he started talking to me about churches really sometimes don't have the manpower or the time to invest in men. There's a disconnect, as Jim found in his ministry. There's a disconnect between men and church. And what is it? He would see men going on Sundays maybe to fishing or hunting or whatever it was. Why weren't they going to a church? And he realized because men love sports, men love business, he would combine sports and business into a chaplaincy and create events where men could come and they could be men and talk, and then they'd learn about Christ and they'd be sent out into the world. And that's why his ministry is so effective. So Len came to me and told me, he said, "I think we should do this in Durango because no church is doing it." And Jim encouraged us to pray for about a year, which we did, and that ministry's been going on now for 5.5 years in Durango. And Len was one of the instigators with me to get that going. And without him, I wouldn't be in Phoenix. He told us all about a great church here. My kids are in school down here as a result, so he's a great friend. He's going to speak for just a couple minutes, so welcome Len Goebel. Len? to speak from there, or you want to come up here?
Oh, this is good.
Okay.
Now?
Yes. I gave you that big intro.
My name's Ted Ripley, and I'm from Philadelphia. Now, actually, most of what Ted said is true. I just want to tell you a little bit about most of it. Durango, Colorado really is the center of the universe. We've only got about 50,000 people in the county, 18 in the city. We meet at 6:30 on a Tuesday morning in a hotel bar, and we're running about 50 guys a week, which we think is pretty good for where we are. Scott's been there, he's been the speaker, and so on. My advice to what you guys are trying to do is keep it really simple and keep it flexible. We had a fellow early on who was just a very dynamic speaker. When he moved away, Ted and I thought, we're in real trouble. Our group grew. About a year and a quarter ago, Ted moved away. We thought, we're in real trouble again. Kayo took over, who you're going to meet in a second. We grew again. Everything you see in the world, death, divorce, illness, loss of job, we see in our group. But our guys have been together long enough that they know it's a safe place. They know there's guys there that care about them. And if they need help with something, somebody in our room can and will help. So that's my speech.
Thank you.
Nobody did say he was not concise. Very concise. So our featured speaker today is Kayo Folsem. Like I said, Kayo took over for me up there. He's, Glenn would say, the face of the place in Durango. And Kayo's family, his name is spelled Kayo, and a couple people asked him this morning something about, you knock people out. And he'll have to answer for that. But he's just a wonderful, wonderful man. His family homesteaded in Colorado in the mid-1800s. In fact, I used to look out my window at this gigantic mountain. I didn't know for years it was called Folsem Mountain, because they don't know all that land. But he's an amazing storyteller. But the reason I asked him to come down here today is, Kayo's an example of a guy that stands tall when life is going really bad. He's been through a lot of really, really difficult stuff. With his stories, he can just talk to you about how to keep standing tall and keep pressing forward. He stands in front of all these men every week and just inspires them. And they say, well, if he can keep standing tall and walking with the Lord, no matter what I'm going through, I know I can too. He baked for you this morning. He brought down a bunch of those great cookies there. Did you put any of that Colorado marijuana in those? That's how he keeps the attendance so big. You didn't think I knew about that, did you? Well, we're really thrilled to have him. He's just a wonderful man. These guys came all the way. Please welcome Kayo Folsem. Okay. I'm just going to get him hooked up. This is weird. You're going to make me nervous. Just want to make sure everybody gets to hear him okay. Okay, hey, good morning, guys. Man, what a privilege and an honor to be here. Lynn said I took over. I didn't take over. God took over. He was already there, and there was no reason to worry about whether the fellowship was going to continue, because God had a plan for it. And when God's in the plan, it's always going to go His way. I heard something funny on the way over here this morning. I want to share with you. There was some neighborhood, and folks have lived in the neighborhood for a while, and a new couple moved in, right? And I think the guy's name is Ted that I'm talking about here. But anyway, this guy's wife was telling him goodbye one morning as he was leaving for work, and she noticed a new couple over there, and the husband was kissing the wife goodbye. And so Ted's wife said, "Gosh, how come you don't do that in the mornings?" He says, "Well, I haven't even met her yet." Okay, here's the deal. And Ted knows this. These are my notes. These are my notes for the meeting this morning. I have discovered that whenever I try to prepare, the more I prepare, the less the message comes together. So I have no message for you this morning. I have zero message. But I'm confident that God has a message, because that just seems to how it works with he and I. If I show up because I'm a broken and useless vessel, and I can't tell you about all my brokenness, and there's not enough time. It would take an eternity to share with you all the things that are broken in my life. But we turning life's tragedies into victories is what we're all about. I mean, that's what being a part of Jesus Christ's message is all about. So there's a couple things I want to start with this morning. Everybody has burdens, right? Everybody has burdens. Everybody's had things that have gone wrong. So one thing I want you to do this morning for just 1 hour, 40 minutes, put your burdens at the cross, and don't let those things bother you this morning. Just put them away. Just fellowship and experience the joy of God being here, the Holy Spirit. Because it doesn't matter what I say, or Ted says, or Lynn says, or Jim Cody says. It matters what Christ is saying. The other thing, and I've learned this from experience, Revelation 3:20 says, I stand at the door and knock, and anyone who will open, I will enter therein, and he will sup with me, and I will sup with him. I guarantee you, because it's the way God works, no matter how loudly my message is, God's going to speak to somebody, and he's going to be knocking on your door. And I would encourage you, when that happens, to open that door. Because that's what happens in groups like this. That's what happens in groups like this. I want to just read 2 quick scriptures. And as I share some of my story, these scriptures will take on a great meaning. 2 Chronicles 20, 3 and 4. And Jehoshaphat feared and set himself to seek the Lord, and proclaimed a fast throughout all Judah. And Judah gathered themselves together to ask help of the Lord. Even out of all of the cities, Judah came to seek the Lord. And in Psalm 62:7, on God my salvation and glory rest. The rock of my strength, my refuge is in God. So I want to just give you a quick background. Everybody here has been through hard times. Everybody has a story. Everybody can stand up here and share their story. So my story in that sense is not unique, but it's my story. And God chose me today to share part of my story so that you may be able to find something to hang on to if you're going through some tough times. For a good part of my life, I was like a golden boy. Everything turned to gold that I touched. I mean, everything. I could make no mistakes. And I made some mistakes, personally, character-wise, that changed the trajectory of my life. And through the course of that, I lost my youngest son died here in Phoenix in 2011. Terrible tragedy. Thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. It wasn't the worst thing that could happen to me. Just in 2017, I lost a brother, died. A stepson that I raised died. The mother of my boys died. Her mother died. My last 2 uncles on my dad's side died. And I'm just attending funeral after funeral after funeral. All of these losses. And I'm weathering the storm. And I found there was a great sense of, as I look back, not a sense of pride, there was an arrogance. Like, I got this. I'm a man. I can handle this. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. And I kept going. I learned the whitewater raft in 2011. And the thing is, I don't swim. So I'm whitewater rafting, but I don't swim. But whitewater rafting has a lot of parallels to life. You start out in really calm water, and you start to experience a few ripples. The rapids get a little bit bigger, but you keep going, and you learn from experience how to navigate those tough waters. Same thing in life, right? Well, I'm learning to raft, and I don't know much about rivers, and as they rise, the rapids change. The challenges change. The terrain becomes a little different. And I'm so excited about rafting, I keep going, day after day after day. Well, one day, I'm in the raft, and I go into this rapid called Corner Pocket, and it looks different, and it is different. it flips my raft. And I can't swim. And I'm underwater, and I've got a handful of gravel, and I'm thinking, this doesn't feel right, a handful of gravel. I'm panicked, can't swim. I pop up, and I'm in the middle of this rapid, and I see this large, massive rock. And somehow, I make it to the rock. I make it to the rock, and I hang on this rock. And I'm on the rock, and I realize, wait, I can't stay here forever. I gotta get to the shore. So I make it to the shore. And it really, it caused me to obviously have a greater respect for the river and the challenges and so forth. But I have to tell you, every time I went through that rapid, there was a great comfort in seeing that rock. Because I knew that if I fell in that rapid, that class 5 rapid, and I got thrown out of my boat, that I could hang on to that rock. That everything would be fine, everything would be safe. You know, Mike Tyson, everybody here remembers Mike Tyson. You guys are all old enough. And I was watching this interview with Mike Tyson when he was fighting. And the interviewer was asking him, said, well, I forget who the other fighter was. He said, well, the other fighter said he's got this game plan and this is how he's going to fight you and do all this stuff. He said, what do you think about that? Mike Tyson said, well, guess what? Everybody's got a game plan till I hit him in the mouth. Right? And then the game plan goes out the window. Well, we've got a game plan. We've got a game plan until life hits us in the mouth. And out the window it goes. So I had a really rough year in 2017. To the point I lost all those folks. And then my company got sued for over $1 million because of a lease we guaranteed. And so this is in December, so I'm panicking, you know. But I'm thinking, you know what, 2018 is going to be a better year. So on January 3rd, I get a phone call from my daughter-in-law. She says, can you come over to my house? And I've got a son, my last son who's left. His brother's died. I've got a little grandson. And they live about 40 miles away. And I'm like, okay, I said, what's going on? She says, I can't tell you, you just need to come over. So it's early in the morning, and I drive over to her home. And when I drive in, my son's truck's not there. My son's truck's not there. I'm like, well, that's strange. What's going on? So I go in and knock on the door. My daughter-in-law's up. And she says, come in and sit down. Come in and sit down. And so I go in and I sit down. And I said, what's going on? She says, well, Kevin won't be coming home for a while. Kevin won't be coming home for a while. I said, what do you mean he won't be coming home for a while? She said, well, you got arrested last night. Arrested? What for? Murder. Murder. At that moment, God abandoned me. I was alone. I had adrenaline rushing through my body. I had questions. I had fears. I had all of these things going on. I don't know if anybody's experienced that. You do not want to experience that. It was worse than the phone call telling me my younger son had died. Because all my hopes now were in this boy. And I'm sitting there, and it's just like the most bizarre thing in the world. Like, God, how could this be? I have been loyal. I have been faithful. All of these things start going through my mind. And long story short, my daughter-in-law leaves. She's down trying to figure out what to do. And I'm there with my little grandson, who's like 2.5 feet. Well, no, he was just over 2 at the time. And my worst fears, Job, my worst fears have come upon me. I'm sitting on the sofa, and my little grandson is pointing at the door. Papa, where's Dad? Papa, where's Dad? Because he loves his dad. He spent every day with his dad. It was the most bizarre thing. So I went through that day. And it was one of the most difficult days of my life because I'm just in absolute shock. But I haven't turned to the Lord. I turned to me. I've got to handle this. I had a business trip planned to Dallas. I had to drive to Dallas, pick up a couple of trucks, and come back to our home in Durango. And everybody advised me, don't go. You're not emotionally well. Don't go. No, I'm a man. I got this. I'm prideful. I can do it. So I get in the car and rented a car because we're bringing a couple of trucks back. And there's an area between Durango and Santa Fe where you're just out in the middle of nowhere. And I've got an associate with me, and I rented one of those Dodge Challengers with the Hemi in it. Man, those are nice cars. Fast, right, Jim? They're fast. So I'm driving along thinking about this word murder and what the implications are, and all what's going to happen to my son, and on and on. And my associate says, "Hey, Kayo," and he kind of, wakes me up out of my daydreams, and he says, "Can you slow down a little bit? You're really scaring me." And I look, I'm doing 130. Doing 130 in this car. Hopefully nobody hears it with Enterprise, because and so I go on down to Dallas. I go to Dallas, and I am hardening my heart. Here's the deal, I'm hardening my heart. I am not softening my heart. I am not pleading to God. I am hardening my heart. So I get to Dallas, I turn this car in, and we go over to the place that rents the budget trucks. And it's in kind of a seedy part of town. And as we're filling out the paperwork, I start to feel this sense of God. So I excuse myself, and I go into this restroom that is just filthy. I mean, it's just the worst place in the world. And I go in there, and I turn the lights off, and I get on my knees. And God met me in that restroom. God met me in that horrible, stinky restaurant and saved my life. Took that pride away, and I look back on those years of all those things that happened, and pridefulness caused me to lose all that I had. And then I became arrogant in my pridefulness about being almost like a martyr, of like, oh, well, I've lost this, I've lost that, I'm tough, I keep going. Man, the pride thing is so dangerous for us. I forgot something really important. On Friday mornings, so this happened on Thursday. On Friday mornings, I've got a little Bible study that goes on in my office that I'd started like 4 or 5 years ago. And there's only 4 of us that show up. But there's one guy that shows up who, from the first, he's a terrible alcoholic. He had like 7 DUIs, in and out of jail all the time. And his brother attended this Bible study, and his brother finally encouraged him to finally show up at the Bible study. That man's not had a drink in 4 years. One time of engaging with God changed his life forever. And he will not miss a Friday. Well, I just experienced this terrible tragedy in my life. And 2 of the guys aren't going to show up except the guy who is sober now. And I was going to cancel. And in the middle of the night, God said, "No. You need to be there." So I got up and I went. And he and I had the most amazing time of fellowship, just one-on-one. I didn't tell him what was going on, because I want to hear his story. I'm there for him. I'm there for him, because he needs that. And so I provided that. But towards the end of our time together, it was so strange. I looked over, and there's this plant sitting on this little table. I'd never seen the plant before. And in it is this card, which I had never seen before. And we'd been sitting there for 45 minutes, and I'm like, "Where'd this come from?" He says, "I don't know. I don't know." And this is what the card says. This is what the card says. "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Isaiah 41:10. Can you imagine the love our God has for us, that he can orchestrate something like that? I'm sure there's a logical explanation for it, but I don't want to hear it. Because for me, this was supernatural. This was supernatural. So we finished up that trip in Dallas, and it was so amazing. Jim Cote, who was in Dallas, this had just happened, and I was able to meet with Jim. another orchestration by God. It's just so amazing how God will work if we just allow Him to work. And I can tell you that the last few months have been difficult and trying. And every time I think I've learned all I need to learn about humility and about all of these things, I realize I haven't learned much at all. And as I've gone through the past few months, and by the way, my son is spending 25 years to life in prison. 25 years to life. I'm 65 years old. The earliest I get to see him is when I'm 90. So I'm hoping maybe I can still ride motorcycles or do something at that age, but we'll find out. But here's what I've learned. And I think these are the most important. We've got some questions. You guys can study those. Here's what I'm learning. Getting a glimpse of, and it's the most beautiful thing. Paul says, I've learned to be content in all things. Whether I'm wealthy or poor, whether I'm ill or whether I'm healthy, or whether I'm in prison, or whether I'm free. I've learned to be content in all things. Well, that sounds really great until you start to experience the lack of health, the lack of wealth, the lack of freedom, all of these things. But here's what God wants. He wants us to do what He says, and that is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, soul, strength, everything you have. Everything you have. I love the parable about the man who finds the treasure in a field, in a pasture, and he buries it, and he runs home and he sells everything he has to buy that pasture. And then we have the parable of the rich young man who asked Jesus, how can I follow you? And Jesus tells him, follow the commandments. Well, this I've done since my youth. He says, well, you're lacking one thing. Sell all you have and come follow me. Easy to say, but obviously not so easy to do because the wealthy young man walked away sad because he had much. Well, we have much. We have much. And God doesn't necessarily want you to sell it all and give it away, but He wants you to be willing to. He wants you to be willing to. Like Abraham sacrificing Isaac. He wasn't going to make him sacrifice Isaac. But Abraham needed to be willing to do that. He needed to be willing to do that. So what I'm finding is the holy grail of our life, our existence, is loving God. And not saying, do we want God to be God, or do we want God to help us? There's a big difference. And in most of my life, I wanted God to help me. I wanted Him to provide things for me. And then I would take those things and misuse them, unfortunately. And I'm finding that I want the presence of God, not the presence from God. Huge difference. Huge difference. And as much as has gone on in my life, and I know some of you may have experienced things even far worse, as much as has gone on in my life, I'm starting to not regret that. I'm starting to realize that the love of God and the love for God is so amazing and so beautiful and so wonderful that those things just become stuff. They're neither good, they're neither bad. It's just stuff. It just happens because we live in a fallen world. But there's such an amazing sense of joy. Paul, when he wrote Philippians, was in jail, and he uses the word joy 17 times. Joy, contentment, all these things. That's what our relationship with Christ is all about. That's what our relationship with God is all about. And I promise you from personal experience, I have been hit in the mouth by Mike Tyson. But I've got a trainer, a coach, who loves me so much, he keeps picking me up and telling me, get back in the fight. He doesn't want us to give up. He does not want us to give up. And He's willing, with those nail-scarred hands, to take us by the hand and walk us through those troubles. He will not take us out of them, I've learned. I keep asking Him, Christ asking Him, if it's possible, can this cup be passed from me? No, but I'll be there with you. God, can you please get my son out of prison so I can spend some time with him?
No. But I'll help you have a relationship with him in prison. I'll go and I'll meet him there. There's a beautiful story about a man in Cambodia when Pol Pot took over. Killed 3 million of his own people in these internment camps. There's this beautiful testimony I read of a man who volunteered to go into the human waste pits and shovel all day long. Every day, all day long. And when asked, why would you volunteer for that assignment? This man said, because I meet God there. It's the only place in this entire camp that the guards will not go, they will not harass you, and I can spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day communing with God in this terrible place. God is everywhere. And this man had joy in the most horrible of all places you can imagine. He had joy. And every day he faced death, and every day he volunteered to go shovel poop and waste up to his knees, up to his thighs. But for him it was a beautiful place. He relished getting up in the morning and going to that place because God was there. And God found me in a terrible, seedy bathroom in Dallas, Texas. God will meet you wherever you decide to open the door. Wherever you decide to open the door, God will meet you. So my encouragement to you is don't give up. I've got this rock, which is so bizarre. I got this rock the day that I went back home from hearing that terrible news. There's this rock sitting on my desk, and I had the rock, I just had lost it. Never give up. Never give up. But what it should say is never give up on God. Never give up on Jesus. And never give up on yourself. Because here's what Satan wants us to do. And he does it to me so often. He wants me to remember every terrible thing I ever did. You know what? Bad people do good things. It doesn't make them good. And good people do bad things. And it doesn't make them bad. That is not what defines us. But that's what Satan wants to define us. He wants to take the worst thing you've ever done, the worst 5 things you've ever done, and put them in a tape and just keep playing them back over and over and over. Forget it. Forget it. Because what God wants you to focus on is He's turning you into a warrior. He's turning you into a king. We are all sons of Jesus Christ. And that is the most glorious thing that we could ever possibly hope for. And if Paul, in prison, he was like ISIS. This guy was ISIS on steroids during his time on earth before he had the miraculous conversion on the Damascus Road. He was like ISIS. And he turned into the man who wrote a third of the New Testament. He turned into the second most influential person besides Jesus Christ of that era because he forgot about what he had done and he looked at what God wanted him to do. And he surrendered. He just said, here am I, finally. And some of us, it takes that Damascus Road. Others, it's kind of a slow process. But we're here to make a difference. We are here to make a difference. And I had a choice. And everybody here has a choice who's gone through bad times. I felt like just crawling in the fetal position and giving up on life and crying my life away. But God said, no, I want you to take the pain. I want you to take the pain. I know it hurts. Yeah, it does hurt. It does hurt. It hurts that I can't see my son. I can't do things with him. It hurts that my other boy's dead. I miss him terribly. That doesn't excuse my responsibility to be a steward of that which God has blessed me with. It doesn't excuse you from that responsibility of being a wonderful steward of all you have. But God will heap blessings on you. And I'm not talking about financial blessings. Man, I've had some blessings. Friendship with Lynn. Friendship with Ted. Friendship with all these men and Master's men. And another time, if I ever get the chance to come back, I'll tell you, I was on the verge of jumping off a tall bridge with a short rope around my neck when I stumbled on the Master's men. And so I go from this broken vessel, and I'm still just flabbergasted that I'm standing here and God's using me. But my deal with God is I used to prepare, I'd have notes this thick, because that's how I did things. And every time I did that, it just didn't come out right. So God said, I just want you to shut up, and I want you to just be an empty vessel, and I will speak through you. I will do what needs to get done. So if this don't work, blame it on God. So that's really it. My encouragement is to not give up, is to keep searching God, because God He's the great trainer. He's the great coach. He's the great motivator. He is the great networker. He is everything. And reject Satan's lies about you and realize that you are a glorious being made in the image of God, and all he's doing is trying to draw us back into that relationship. And that's the Holy Grail, is that we just want God plus nothing. If we can just get to the point where we want God plus nothing, then we have everything. It's counterintuitive. The more you give up, the more you have. Counterintuitive.